from the station that's on your side. This is News 12 at 6 o'clock.
We have new details about an hours-long shootout in Aiken County. The moments unfolding on social media live from the suspect's own Facebook page.
And here's a look at that suspect today. 42-year-old Nate Mead just booked in the Webster Detention Center in Richmond County in the last few hours after being treated at AU Health.
We now know deputies shot Mead at least 5 times last night in what started as a hostage situation. He'll now be moved to Aiken County, where he faces a charge for pointing and presenting a firearm at law enforcement, and many more charges expected to come.
3 law enforcement agencies were on scene last night. No officers were wounded. Neither was the kidnapping victim.
So we want to bring in News 12 Celeste Springer. She's live from the Aiken County Sheriff's Office with details on how this all started. What led up to this, Celeste?
Well, crazy moments showed on Facebook Live, of that woman allegedly being held captive. But what I set out to do today is figure out what all wasn't shown in that Facebook video that we all saw. We start here. Deputies say the victim came to pick up the suspect, Nathaniel Mead, from this North Augusta Publix.
They had a acquaintance relationship. She was in a relationship with his brother.
Sometime after, deputies say they headed to Wrdw Drive off Whiskey Road. A family member then made a concerned call to 911 around 7:50.
They reported seeing Mr. Mead and our victim. It looked like she was being held against her will.
The sheriff's office says the victim and Mead left Wrdw Drive, and they believe he started his Facebook Live sometime after.
She dies if you're right.
He appears to be holding the victim at gunpoint as she drives around.
All these set me up. All these set me up.
Was he actually being sought out by law enforcement prior to taking someone hostage?
No. Not that we're aware of. Nothing has been noted. But, our main concern was trying to get that hostage back safe.
Fast forward to 9:36. Another call to 911. Someone reported seeing a man and woman fighting near this dealership on Jefferson Davis Highway.
Units were already in the area, got there pretty quick.
That takes us to 10:06 p.m. The sheriff's office says Mead fired the first shots at deputies. 4 minutes later, the victim was able to run to safety. For over 3.5 hours, deputies tried to negotiate with Mead. He shot at least 5 times. And despite these words,
tonight, somebody's gonna die tonight.
Deputies, the suspect, and the victim all made it out alive. And it really is incredible how that victim was able to remain calm all the while being held allegedly captive and being forced to drive around town. And as for Mead, he's now been booked into a Richmond County jail. We're now waiting for him to be extradited back to South Carolina.
All right, thanks for that, Celeste. Now, we did look into Mead's past charges, and we found a rap sheet dating back to the late 90s, and you can find that and more details attached to this story online at wrdw.com.
Much more news ahead, but right now, a live look outside as we check out. Pieces of caution tape still up at an Augusta store after the 6th shooting in the last week.
This is Paul's Supermarket at the corner of Green and East Boundary Streets, where deputies say a man was shot in the leg last night.
Just this week, the Richmond County Sheriff announcing more patrols and road checks, but he says to keep crime down, it takes an entire community.
News 12's Claire Allen live now in our newsroom. And Claire, you were able to talk to neighbors, to city leaders who say they're ready for a change too.
A witness to last night's shooting tells me she couldn't believe what was happening and says enough is enough. I spoke to neighbors and community leaders who also say people need to take action.
It shook me up.
6 shootings in 7 days. Wednesday night, a man was shot in the leg on Green Street. It comes a day after and just 2 blocks over from where shots rang out over at the Chevron gas station on East Boundary. Now it has one neighborhood on edge.
Senseless.
Gary and Henry says she was buying groceries when she heard gunshots in front of Paul's Supermarket.
At first it didn't dawn on me what was happening, but then I realized, oh my God, there were individuals in there, in the store, that they did not care about.
Neighbors who live near the store tell me they're traumatized.
And like on yesterday, my neighbor's kids were outside and they came in screaming and yelling. They were terrified.
I want people to be able to be safe, to feel secure, to be able to walk to their community stores and not have to fear being gunned down because somebody is trying to retaliate against someone else.
Commissioner Jordan Johnson says it breaks his heart seeing senseless crimes happen in his district. He hopes this will spark conversations for change.
Moreover, I think that it is showing the need for programs to make sure that folks have access to the resources that they need to not fall into a life of crime.
Johnson says he spoke with the district attorney and reached out to the sheriff's office in order to identify ways to combat ongoing gun violence.
So getting people to work is going to be so important. Getting people in job skills training programs, getting people off the streets into mentor programs is going to be helpful.
Many are hoping people show more love and come together for the better.
Whether it's food giveaways or open concerts outside, anything that promotes peace in the neighborhood. The key here is to call on the NAACP, calling on church leaders, calling on other mentor groups to come out and help these young folks.
Commissioner Johnson says he is working with other city leaders to create programs in the next few weeks to combat the recent violence. Neighbors I talked to say they are going to host a Stop the Violence rally next week. We'll have more details about that rally online.
All right, thanks for that, Claire. And just into our newsroom in the last 2 hours, Richmond County deputies are looking for this SUV in connection to the murder of 72-year-old Johnny Coleman. He was shot as he was leaving the area of the Valero's gas station on Old Savannah Road Monday. If you have any information, call the sheriff's office at 706-821-1080.
And as our community works towards solution, also a candidate forum starting up in the next 20 minutes where you can find it on the local chapter of the Alpha Kappa Alpha's Facebook page. It's happening in just a few minutes this evening. Just wrapping up, a protest in downtown Augusta in response to the shooting death of 34-year-old Robert Wright, the victim of a deadly officer-involved shooting in Aiken earlier this month. His family, friends, and other supporters say they're looking for answers and justice in his death. We'll have details tonight on News 12 at 11 o'clock.
Still ahead, a life-saving procedure that could keep you from getting the long-term care you need. The I-Team investigates the fallout after heart failure. Next.
Time to $9.99.
Click, click. A procedure saved a local veteran's life 5 years ago, but the device that keeps him alive is also keeping him from getting the care he needs.
To me, it's discrimination medically because you can take someone with one thing, but you can't take, him with this, or any other patient with that, with an LVAD.
LVAD, that's the device that pumps blood to the heart. University Hospital and AU Health both offering this life-saving surgery.
And heart pumps can prolong the lives of heart failure patients, but when long-term care is needed afterwards, our I-Team Liz Owens found there's a fallout after surviving heart failure.
For better, for worse,
He was just a doting guy.
in sickness and in health,
21 years.
Katrina Robinson has stood by Gary's side.
He can't stand. He can't do anything on his own anymore.
She now sits by his bedside.
And on January 4th, he had a stroke, a massive stroke, and it paralyzed him on his left side, which is also his dominant side.
It wasn't their first close call with death. Gary underwent life-saving surgery at University Hospital after experiencing heart failure 5 years ago.
We were told that without the LVAD, his life expectancy was 6 months to a year max.
But the heart pump that has kept him alive since 2017 is now keeping him from the therapy he needs to recover from the stroke.
How many nursing homes have you called?
I have called dozens.
And nobody's telling you why.
They just say that nursing facilities or rehabs do not take LVAD patients, and that we're not the only ones.
Just this week, University Hospital performed its 100th left ventricular device surgery. And this past February, Augusta University Medical Center began offering the life-saving surgery too. Yet,
I called all over Columbia County, Richmond County, Aiken County, McCormick.
Katrina cannot find a single nursing home or rehab facility
I called Spartanburg, Greenville, Columbia.
within 100 miles that will accept a patient with a heart pump.
This is over month 3 now, and he's had very little rehab as far as physical therapy.
How frustrated are you?
Very frustrated. It's very frustrating.
The I-Team turned to the Georgia Healthcare Association to get answers. They represent nursing homes throughout the state. A spokesperson emailed the I-Team, LVADs require specialized care and oversight. If a center has indicated they cannot admit an individual, it is because they do not feel they can safely meet their comprehensive needs.
Would you send a patient, an LVAD patient, to a nursing home? So, as an LVAD coordinator, it would most certainly not be my preference because I know that they wouldn't be able to receive the attention that they need.
Kiana Curtis works with LVAD patients and their families at AU.
In a nutshell, their heart is operating by power. They require a lot of attention. And if a patient's not physically able to manage their own equipment, if they're, say for instance, not physically able to switch themselves between power sources and do all the things that they have to do for themselves, they're going to require a caregiver to be able to do that for them.
Just how specialized and how much oversight is needed involving patients with heart pumps? The I-Team tracked down federal data on the device keeping Gary alive. The MOB database houses medical reports submitted to the FDA by manufacturers when they become aware of information that reasonably suggests that one of their marketed devices may have caused or contributed to death or injury. The I-Team found more than 100 reports of deaths involving the HeartMate 3 made it into the database just last month. Hemorrhage after disconnection to mobile power unit, post-implant infection, a stuck pump, bacterial infection at the driveline exit, flow problems just before cardiac arrest.
They have a coordinator that's supposed to train people, train the nurses and all around here locally in the nursing facilities or whatever, but I don't know if they're doing that or not.
Nursing homes have struggled to meet even the basic needs of patients since the pandemic hit. Staffing shortages are now at a crisis level. The nonprofit Kaiser Family Foundation found nearly half of all nursing homes in Georgia reported staffing shortages during the week of March 20th of this year.
He's just falling through the cracks and won't get the help that he needs.
Katrina does her best to care for her husband.
And bathe him, feed him.
While also working a full-time job to pay the medical bills.
I can't give him the treatment and therapy that he needs because I'm not trained in that. I don't know what to do.
A lifelong love now in limbo between technology and aftercare that feels like an afterthought.
And the LVAD coordinator at AU tells us if staffing does not improve in long-term care facilities and admission continues to be a problem, then they may begin advising heart pump patients of the problems they could face later down the road when they need long-term care.
To weather now as we give you a live look out.